What's going on? Hey everybody. Hey friends, my name is Michael Music, and today we are chugging along with the book Think and Grow Rich. And I just want to give a little backstory on this book. So I started reading this book. I think this is episode 23, 24. Um, so I've been reading this book and truly trying to find the insight of the secret because heard I've been recommended this book by a lot of people, and I heard that this book has created more millionaires than any book out there. And it's interesting the backstory of Think and Grow Rich. So there's this gentleman named Napoleon Hill, and when he was a young reporter, he got a chance to interview the great Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie set him upon a task of creating a philosophy of success. And it may take him 25 years with no pay, and it was a pretty big challenge, and Napoleon Hill, in under 60 seconds, I believe, said yes to the challenge and dedicated his life to creating this book. So this book is made from 25 years of research and interviews conducting the most wealthiest of the individuals, of the 500 wealthiest individuals around the world. So given that a person dedicated his life, or at least 25 years of his life, with no initial compensation to the creation of this book and this philosophy, I think it's definitely worth reading out loud and sharing. And furthermore, in this book, it says in the beginning introduction that no fewer than 100 times the secret to this philosophy has been given in one of the pages. And Napoleon Hill says, when you find the secret, turn down a glass and have a drink and celebrate it for a little bit, for you are on your way to great riches. So I am pretty excited to be reading this book today. My name is Michael Music. I just graduated college at Penn State. Um, and then I decided, okay, well, if a lot of the millionaires and billionaires have read this book, why not read it live and try to really unlock what it is that they're talking about, and not only read it out loud live, but actually apply it in my life. So this won't be the first time I'm reading this book, and it won't be the last. Um, and anyways, that's a little brief 5-minute introduction on it. We're gonna start on chapter 15, how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. Okay, so that is page 324 that we're on right now. Okay, I'll get started and we'll talk about it as we go along. So, chapter 15, how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. Take inventory of yourself as you read this closing chapter and find out how many of the ghosts are standing in your way. Before you can put any portion of this philosophy into successful use, your mind must be prepared to receive it. The preparation is not difficult. It begins with study, analysis, and understanding of the 3 enemies which you shall have to clear out. These are indecision, doubt, and fear. Okay, pause there. 3 enemies that we got to clear out before we're ready to receive this philosophy. What does that mean? Are you ready to receive this philosophy? That's interesting because no fewer than 100 times is a secret in this book presented to us. And the thing is, you won't receive the secret until you are ready to receive it. So it's saying to prepare your mind to receive it, we got to clear out these 3 enemies: indecision, doubt, and fear. Okay, furthermore, the sixth sense, the chapter that we just read yesterday, will never function while these 3 negatives or any of them remain in your mind. The members of this unholy trio are closely related. Where one is found, the other two are close at hand. Okay, keep in mind this. Indecision is the seedling of fear. Remember this as you read. Indecision crystallizes into doubt, and the two blend together to become fear. So indecision is crystallizes, it goes indecision. So, okay, let's go back to I think it was chapter 8 on decision, which is the seventh principle, right? Lack of decision. If I don't make a decision and I stay stagnant, they'll soon over time build into doubt. Have you ever had a situation where you didn't make a decision right away and all of a sudden you kind of forgot about it, right? And that thing that you said you were going to do, you started doubt has just creeped into the little void or the just into your mind and you're like, well, where did you come from? And all of a sudden randomly further down the line on the timeline, all of a sudden you got this big fear of, oh my God, how can I do this? What am I going to do? And it's just, rapid fire thoughts. So that's interesting. That makes me think about how important the chapter on decision is, because it's indecision that's really the leadway to fear. That's very interesting to keep in mind. Okay, so the blending process is often slow. This is one reason why these three enemies are so dangerous. They germinate and grow without their presence being observed. Wow. So keep in mind this. Indecision, doubt, and fear, they're in the background, right? They're not, it's not like, oh, you didn't make a decision. Doubt's coming up soon enough, and soon you're going to be in a fearful state of mind. You don't realize that. It's just all of a sudden you're in fear and you're like, whoa, why am I feeling this way? Because it's creeping in the background. They grow without their presence being observed. So what can we do with this information now that we got it, right? We got these three enemies. We just named them. That's the first step. So what can we do about it? I guess we can keep reading, but let me ask you, I want you to think about as we keep reading, what can we do about now that we identified that indecision leads into doubt, which leads into fear? Okay, so the remainder of this chapter describes an end which must be attained before the philosophy as a whole can be put into practical use. It also analyzes a condition which has but lately reduced huge numbers of people to poverty, and it states a truth which must be understood by all who accumulate riches, whether measured in terms of money or a state of mind of far greater value than money. All right, let's pause right there. So understand how he mentions riches. There's two things that he just said for riches. He said it could be measured in terms of money or a state of mind which is far greater than the value of money. So what does that mean when we're talking about I'm rich, right? Am I rich in terms of money or am I rich in the terms of the state of mind that I developed? I guess my purpose for reading this is to I'd rather have, I think, that state of mind where all of these principles come together and I know that I'm almost guaranteeing my own success rather than the money right away. That's my personal preference, and I think the reason I keep reading this is because I really do want to ingrain this state of mind far greater than money into my subconscious so that it's just a part of who I am and my being. Okay, Napoleon Hill, we're on page 325. The purpose of this chapter is to turn the spotlight of attention upon the cause and the cure of the six basic fears. Before we can master an enemy, we must know its name, its habits, and its place of abode. As you read, analyze yourself carefully and determine which, if any of the 6 common fears have attached themselves to you. Do not be deceived by the habits of these subtle enemies. Sometimes they remain hidden in the subconscious mind where they are difficult to locate and still more difficult to eliminate. Okay. Wow. So these fears are essentially, he's saying, these fears come with a few habits. It's like almost like a spider web. It's like there's the fear and it breaks off into the negative habits, right? And where are habits located? It's in the subconscious mind. The habit is kind of like an action you do automatically. And then you might wonder, like, oh, how do I do that automatically? Because it's operating through the subconscious mind, which is the part of you that's keeping your heart beating. So think about how you're not consciously thinking about keeping your heartbeat. However, it's just doing it automatically. So understand, basically what I'm trying to say is that the fears may not be in your conscious mind. Like logically, they may not make sense, but you may be emotional about them and they may be lodged in your subconscious, which makes it actually pretty difficult to locate and even more difficult to eliminate. So it's kind of like this rewiring process that we want to do to kind of like take a step back, like, okay, where did this fear come from? And can we like really get to the root cause of the fear and fix the trauma or whatever it is there? Okay, the 6 basic fears. There are 6 basic fears with some combination of which every human suffers at one time or another. Most people are fortunate if they do not suffer from the entire 6. Named in the order of their most common appearance, they are the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, and the fear of ill health. And if you're reading along on page 325, it has a notion to the right of these 3. It says at the bottom of most of one's worries. So poverty, criticism, and fear of ill health, kind of really deep in there. Then we also got the fear of loss of love of someone, the fear of old age, and finally, the fear of death. All other fears are of minor importance. They can be grouped under these 6 headings. The prevalence of these fears as occurs to the world runs in cycles. For almost 6 years, while the Depression was on, we floundered in the cycle of fear of poverty. During the World War, we were in the cycle of the fear of death. Just following the war, we were in the cycle of the fear of ill health, as evidenced by the epidemic of disease which spread itself all over the world. Isn't that interesting? So this was written back in, I think, 1934, if I'm not mistaken. And as I'm reading this, it's 2022. I mean, I don't know if everyone just, but we just kind of got through the COVID era, right? And that fear of ill health, right? My personal beliefs was that it was more so the news. Remember, the news kept blasting just this fear. It was COVID's everywhere, and like you better hide from your neighbors, you better hide from everyone inside your house, stay safe. And they just kept repeating this message, right? So personally, it wasn't the COVID spreading rapidly, although it was also. I'm not going to go into that controversy, but it was that fear through the television, right? Just blasting every TV across the world. Just holy fuck, you're so screwed if you get COVID. Like you should be fearful. Anyways, and then you notice overnight it felt like, oh, COVID disappeared the moment that Russia attacked Ukraine. It's like, oh no, okay, no longer worried about the fear of ill health because now we're worried about the fear of death. There's a war going on. So what's next? Next, all of a sudden, what is the date right now? It's like June 14th, 2022. The day I'm reading this to you guys, all of a sudden the stock market's crashing. The crypto markets are crashing. Markets are crashing. Now we're in a cycle of, okay, we just kind of got bored of the Ukraine and Russia war on the news. And what's the next fear that's coming? boom, fear of poverty. Markets are crashing, retirement funds are going out. It's like these cycles that happen over and over again. And it's so interesting because I'll just repeat this chapter again to you guys. The prevalence of these fears as a curse to the world runs in cycles. For almost 6 years, while the depression was on, we floundered in the cycle of the fear of poverty. During the World War, we were in the cycle of the fear of death. And just following the war, we were in the cycle of the fear of ill health, as evidenced by the epidemic of disease which spread itself all over the world. So it literally, he's explaining a cycle of different fears. Next thing you know, same thing. 2022 versus 1934, same cycles running over and over again. It doesn't stop. It really doesn't stop. So that's so interesting to really think about. Okay. Now, Napoleon Hill says this: fears are nothing more than states of mind. Okay, let's pause there. I kind of described the secret to Think and Grow Rich in the last video, right? What is the secret? It is that we're essentially forming this Think and Grow Rich state of mind. That's the whole goal. And even though I say that to you, I say it explicitly, like, what is the secret? Here it is. It's not like you're going to get it, because these aren't chapters that you just read. These are principles that you apply every day if you really want to continuously hold this state of mind. And understand this, that he's saying that fears are nothing more than states of mind. So you got different levels to this, right? Fears are a negative state of mind, and this philosophy is a positive state of mind. So it's really up to you. Which state of mind do you choose? Because keep in mind this, no one can really dictate how you think, right? No one can dictate how I think. There was a great person, I read his book. His name was Viktor Frankl, and he was a prisoner in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany. And he said that no matter how much torture or physical or mental suffering that he faced, none of the guards, none of the people could force him to think a certain way he didn't want to think. So it really is up to you. What state of mind do you want? That's interesting too. So fear is just on the flip side of the state of mind that this philosophy is really getting at. One state of mind is subject to control and direction. Physicians, as everyone knows, are less subject to attack by disease than ordinary laymen, for the reason that physicians do not fear disease. Isn't that interesting? Physicians, without fear or hesitation, have been known to physically contact hundreds of people daily who were suffering from such contagious diseases as smallpox without becoming affected. Their immunity against the disease consisted largely, if not solely, in their absolute lack of fear. Isn't that interesting? So let me say this. Yes, there are numbers of people that died from COVID, and I'll be talking about a touchy subject, but I gotta get this out. If it isn't interesting how it was really like how sick you got from COVID depended on the level that you let COVID really dictate your thoughts, right? When I got COVID, I said, "Okay, COVID, you're in my body. You're gonna work under my rules." And as it turns out, I did not feel sick at all really while under the influence of COVID. The only times I felt sick was when I was thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I have COVID-19. I should be worried or like be sleeping in because I'm sick," right? Those were my thoughts that dictated how my body felt. But when I said, "No, COVID, I'm going to make you my personal bitch," then I felt way better. So what I'm trying to say is it really starts with how you think more importantly than what's going on. So what I'm trying to get at is the people that got really sick from COVID, from my personal belief and in terms of what is written here, they really were like probably thinking over and over through negative use of the law of auto-suggestion. Oh my God, I'm sick. I should feel bad. Oh my God, I'm sick. I feel bad. Oh my God, I'm sick. I feel bad. And next thing you know, their body is in a negative vibration. They're feeling bad. and they get therefore way more sick physically and have all these terrible physical symptoms. So really, essentially, what it really dictates how sick you are is the level of fear. And it's so interesting that physicians, since they understand the fears that or the diseases that they're treating patients with, they don't contract the diseases themselves. So that's my little rant on how fear plays in with disease. I personally do believe that it's more so fear that dictates the physical symptoms one has rather than the disease itself. And hey, listen, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys believe about this. Like, do you agree with me? Do you think I'm full of BS? Let me know. Let me know. This is an open discussion. I'm not saying this book is the end all be all. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm only 22. So hey, all I'd love to hear back from you guys about this. Okay, now let's keep reading. We're on bottom of page 326. Napoleon Hill says, "Man can create nothing which he does not first conceive in the form of an impulse of thought." Man can create nothing which he does not first conceive in the form of an impulse of thought. Following this statement comes another of still greater importance, namely, man's thought impulses begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent, whether those thoughts are voluntary or involuntary. So, what does that mean? First, everything you create has to start with the form of an impulse of thought. That's just how it works. So they say that when you create something, it's always created twice. First in your mind and then in the physical world. And second, Napoleon Hill is saying that your thought impulses, and it goes back to the law of autosuggestion, begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent, whether those thoughts are voluntary or involuntary. So let me ask you, what are you thinking about most? That because in reality, what you think about most will begin by law to create itself in the physical equivalent. So let me ask you this, or let me tell you this. This is an interesting fact that I came upon. I truly got this quote from Instagram, so I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but I will say it is interesting to think about. I actually learned that 12% of our thoughts are in comparison. So when you're scrolling through social media, you may be comparing yourself to other people who look like they're living a really successful life, like everything's going well. And so keep in mind, 12% of our thoughts are in comparison. And I also read that when you don't have money, what happens is 80% of your thoughts are on money and worrying about money. So like not only are they thinking about money, but they're negatively thinking about money and like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? How am I going to get it? So right there, if we took both of those facts to be true, which I'm not saying they're 100% true, but I am saying I do believe them myself, we're at 80% thinking negatively or worrying about money. 12% is comparing your thoughts to the thoughts or comparing yourself to like where other people are in their life. So what does that add up to? That adds up to 92% of your thoughts aren't even good. Now, let me ask you, does that sound like a life that you want to live? Just 92% of your thoughts are truly negative. And I'm asking myself this. I'm not putting saying I'm saying I'm better than you guys or nothing. I'm saying like I gotta ask myself this. Do I really want 92% of my thoughts to be a form of comparing myself to others and worrying about money? I personally don't believe that's the way I want to live. So okay, let's keep going. Thought impulses, we're now on page 327. Thought impulses, which are picked up through the ether by mere chance, quote, or parentheses, thoughts which have been released by other minds, and the parentheses, may determine one's financial, business, professional, or social destiny just as surely as do the thought impulses which create which one creates by intent and design. Okay. We are here laying the foundation for the presentation of a fact of great importance to the person who does not understand why some people appear to be quote unquote lucky, while others of equal or greater ability, training, experience, and brain capacity seem destined to ride with misfortune. This fact may be explained by the statement that boom, 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 every human being has the ability to completely control his own mind. And with this control, obviously, every person may open his mind to the tramp thought impulses which are being released by other brains or close the door tightly and emit only thought impulses of his own choice. Let's try to dissect what that means. First, he says, this fact may be explained by the statement that one, every human being has the ability to control his own mind. Okay, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? You have the, let's say it is a fact. Let's just take it as a fact that you have the ability to control your own mind. Now what? And with this control, obviously, every person may open his mind to the tramp thought impulses which are being released by other brains or close the doors tightly and emit only thought impulses of his own choice. Okay, what does that mean to you? I gotta be real. I don't know how to explain that quote deeper. I did have it underlined though because I do think it's some powerful stuff. But I guess I'll have to leave it up to you. What does that mean to you? That you can either open your mind to thought impulses sent out from other brains, or you have the ability to control and close your mind to the negative thought impulses from other brains. So I guess it really is like, what does that mean to you, and what can you do about it? Now, nature has endowed men with absolute control over but one thing, and that is thought. This fact, coupled with the additional facts that everything which man creates begins in the form of a thought, leads one very near to the principle by which fear may be mastered. If it is true that all thought has a tendency to clothe itself in its physical equivalent, and this is true beyond any reasonable room for doubt, it is equally true that thought impulses of fear and poverty cannot be translated into terms of courage and financial gain. Okay, so he is saying it is a fact that all thought has a tendency to clothe itself in its physical equivalent. And it is equally true that thought impulses of fear and poverty cannot be translated into terms of courage and financial gain. So, what does this relate to the book Think and Grow Rich, right? Think all these thoughts that we have will, by law, start to form themselves into their physical equivalent. And therefore, if we're thinking in terms of fear and poverty, you can almost guarantee yourself that we're not going to really get the riches that this book promises you. It's just like this is, I guess, something you got to take as a fact. So okay, and the bottom of page 327. The people of America began to think of poverty following the Wall Street crash of 1929. Slowly but surely, that mass thought was crystallized into its physical equivalent, which was known as a depression. This had to happen. It is in conformity with the laws of nature. Very interesting stuff. All right, so tomorrow I'm going to go through a couple of the laws. I think we can make it through, or not a couple of the laws, a couple of the fears. We're going to start with the fear of poverty, and I think we'll have time to read also the fear of ill health, I think was the next one. So that's going to be interesting stuff, going dissecting these three fears or these six fears. Oh, there's a great secret on page 329. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I guess might as well share with you one thing I learned, one thing I liked about this. And I love for you guys as well to start thinking, what did you learn and what did you like? Either write it down on your notebook or write it in the comments below. I love to hear it because I'm not a master of this philosophy. I'm just trying to have a group discussion about it. One thing I learned, one thing I learned that fear is a state of mind. So going back to yesterday's call, I mentioned that I think the secret behind thinking we're rich is developing this certain state of mind, and each of the principles, each everything in the chapters described here is to develop this type of thinking we're rich state of mind. And additionally, fear is also a state of mind. However, it's just the negative form of the state of mind that we really are looking for. So I learned a little furthermore that really this book is all about developing this type of state of mind that will guarantee you success. And even though I can explicitly say that, it doesn't mean that the secret will hit you. It just means, okay, at least I can kind of understand what it is that I'm working towards. And furthermore, we learned a brief introduction of fear. I liked also learning about indecision is what leads to doubt, which what leads to fear. So the chapter, going back to chapter 8 on decision, to me was something very important for me to study from now on, because that chapter is so key. With if I'm not making a definite decision and sticking by that decision, I can almost guarantee my unfortunate fate of living in fear soon enough on that decision that I did not make. So that was what I learned and what I liked. I'd love to hear from you guys what you learned, what you like. What did you think about the introduction to fear? What did you think about the six basic fears? You think that there's more fears out there, or do you agree with Napoleon Hill when he says that these are the six main fears and every other fear is kind of like a subset of it? Yeah, what did you think about this? So we just are getting started in how to outwit the six ghosts of fears. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it from my end. All right, cool. So see you guys tomorrow on the live stream. Peace out, Facebook and YouTube. As always, until we meet again in time and space. Maybe you're watching this 1,000 years from now. The year may be 2322 or 3022. Who knows? I hope this video helped you all. And I will see you at the next live stream. All right. Bye for now, YouTube.